Perfect. Thank you so much, Kath, for joining us. We had a brilliant conversation before. I don't know if you remember. I think it was during the pandemic. Maybe we talked about the five elements, and we did lots and lots of things. I'll see if I can find that and put that up again as well. I seem to have lost that in the in the archive somewhere. It was a brilliant conversation. Thank you so much for giving your time to join again. So tonight
No,
uh,
pleasure.
we're going to talk about Qigong and somatics in particular. I know you're a passionate advocate of somatic work, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So, to begin with, I just wanted to ask you, um, why are you so passionate about Qigong? What is it? What is it about Qigong that
It's
you've been
the
practicing?
feeling. Yeah, it's
Tai
the
Chi and Qigong,
feeling.
you've been practicing for, I don't know, 30 years? Longer?
Yeah, even more.
Even more? Yeah,
Well, I started with Tai Chi and then I do both. I do Tai Chi and Qigong. And
yeah.
yeah, it's the feeling of it, really. It's the experience of Qi and the effect it has on my whole well-being. So I've done it for so long that I don't know what it would be like without it. But if I don't do it, then I sometimes I start to feel symptoms of a cold, that kind of thing, a little bit ill. So I find it keeps me well, mostly. Sometimes I do get ill. And yeah, I love it. I love the experience of it. I love teaching it. I love that it makes connections between people. And yeah, what's not to like?
And so when you say if you don't do it, you get symptoms of being ill, tell me what it is that you're sensing. So for people who haven't experienced Qigong, lots of people don't know what it is. And if you come to regular practice, which for anyone who's watching doesn't know, we practice online on Mondays, 7:30 to 8. We have half an hour classes. Um, so when you have regular practice, then you can really feel the build up, and you can feel, and we're going to do a little short practice in a bit. When you practice, when you don't practice, what is it you're feeling the absence of?
um, Hard to put my finger on that one, but when you do it, it's the experience of qi. So qi is like a concept in the Chinese system, and our translation for it is energy or vital force. But it's the thing that all living beings share. So it's in plants, it's like the life force, and it's manifests as movement. And practicing Qigong, you can learn to feel it. It's like actually a presence of energy. And you can feel it inside you, inside your hands. You can make your hands and fingers buzz really quite quickly and easily after a while, get hot or whatever. But you can also feel it out on the outside of you. And some people can see it. I mean, I haven't experienced that. Some people say they see colors and stuff like that.
I know
So
sometimes when we do the practice and you say imagine light coming from your fingers, I know they've actually filmed with special cameras, haven't they? And you can see, I don't know if you've watched those before, and you can actually see the light coming off people's fingernails. Have you?
yeah, I have seen that. Yeah, yeah.
So, for me, I'll just say what I experienced from it. Because when it's in an evening and I'm always tired after working, and I kind of drag myself to the classes every single time. And then within 3 or 4, 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful to be here. It just gives you this sense of expansion. It gives you a sense of grounding. It gives you a sense of centering. It gives you a sense of connection to your breath, connection to yourself. Doing it with other people is really supportive, even though it's online. And what's really beautiful is the way it's your direction, is how you give direction. I've always said that to you, and you're always surprised. I see you look,
Yeah,
but the because your direction is always to do with elements and nature and the earth and sky and heaven and earth and just fulfilling your potential and the direction you're going in. And it's just everything. It's like philosophy mixed with um, just the knowledge you need to exist. I can't really explain it in a way. It's not just an exercise.
Yeah, yeah, it's a complex system, and it comes from Chinese traditional medicine and from the Tao Te Ching, the ancient classic texts, and from the I Ching. And it's a concept of the balance and equilibrium of nature, and which they call the way or the Tao. And so nature is, well, the Tao is, I think the origins were the one, but the Tao is when, well, I think anyway, it splits into yin and yang. So everyone knows the yin and yang symbol, which is the symbol of the balance of opposites, which are in continual motion. They're continually changing from one to the other, yin to yang. So they're not sort of opposites. It's like a continuum. So say yang has the quality of active or full or rising up, expanding outwards. And yin is the opposite. So it's sort of passive, thinking down, empty, unseen, that kind of idea. And so something is always more yin than something else. So say, uh, for example, yeah, something that's smaller or more condensed, like say a potato, would be more yin than something expanding and outward, like a tree, that kind of thing. So it's like yeah, it's a complex system, but once you understand it, it sort of makes sense. And then within the yin and the yang, there's this kind of a cycle of the five elements, which connects to nature. So the cycle is that, so instead of four elements, so we have four elements: earth, air, fire, water. In the Chinese system, there are five, and it goes round in a cycle. And the cycle is like a year, or a lifetime, or a day, or something like that. And so it begins, well, it doesn't begin, it's a circle. So somewhere on it is water, and water is like the sleepy time of day, so nighttime, or in the winter, the dead of winter. And then it rises into spring or early morning, which is the tree element rising up. So this is the yang phase, and it's split into, so it comes from water coming into the upward growth of springtime, and then that emerges into the expansion of fire here at the kind of summertime or the noon, and then it starts to fall and sink, and so then and it comes to earth, like a kind of falling, or associated with autumn time, and then around again it condenses into metal. So this is like they have five. So we've also got water. We don't really have tree, we just have earth. I mean, they divide earth into tree, earth, and metal. So it goes water, tree, fire, earth, and then metal. So metal is like the most condensed form, the most yin form, the most hidden, deepest. And then it's like after metal, the ice, like the crystallized form of water, melts, and then you get water, and then so on it goes. So it's a complex system, and we could go on, we could do a whole, there's lots of books written about it and everything. But each element supports the next one. And each element is also divided into, it is also corresponds with the organs of the body. And within each element, there's also a yin and yang phase. So in the water phase, for example, it's associated with the kidney and bladder organs, which is quite, you know, obvious. And they also have associations. So the associations with emotional things, like, so for example, the emotion of fear is associated with water element, or also courage, or also recklessness, or also kind of willpower. So when you're, for example, your kidney and your bladder meridians are well balanced, then you'll feel a strong sense of will, a strong sense of self, and courage, but not sort of over recklessness. over courage. And then when it's imbalanced, you might feel more fearful,
Mm,
or on the other hand, over reckless, So it's about balancing the elements.
mm.
Yeah. I don't know. I've rambled on for a long time
That's
there.
good because remember we're kind of discussing sort of healing trauma with Qigong, and then we'll talk about somatics in a minute. And so when we talk about trauma, we're talking about the sort of um, the nervous, it's not what happened to us, it's the nervous system response to what happened to us. It's how we adapted in to those circumstances. It's very rarely a one-time event, isn't it? It's kind of like a drip 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 thing. So although we can have one-time events, but generally it's we've experienced something over and over and over again. Either we've experienced something or there's been a lack of some support that we needed. It's either something that's happened or something that didn't happen that needed to happen for our development. And so it's really interesting for me because Qigong brings breath, brings mindfulness, brings physical movement, without which we can't recover from anything. But it also is about the elements and it's all, the meridians, which are the energy pathways. So it's very rarely talked about in trauma healing to talk about energy healing.
Hmm.
It's not, it's not a thing. It's not a thing that's talked about. People talk about mindfulness. People talk about exercise or running or being in nature, but very
Mm.
rarely why is nature? They don't talk about the energy that you experience in nature. So,
Yeah.
can you tell me a bit about why Qigong? Um, why is the energy aspect so important? Why are the meridians so important in recovery from trauma? So if I could I just if I just sat here and practice meditation, I wouldn't really get what I need, I feel.
Mm. Yeah. Well, because trauma's set in the body, isn't it? So it's interesting the way you talk about it in terms of energy healing. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's like you can talk through it, but if it's in the body, it needs to be released through the body. And so if you know that the water element is associated with kidney and bladder, then if you know what to do, you can access, that area of your body if it's physically there. And it's not just there in the organ, but it's in the meridian, which travels all the way through the body. And the meridians are pathways. So what we can do, if you like, is we can tap, because I think probably the most common emotions associated with trauma are fear, which would be water element, also anxiety, which would be earth element. It's more about and which is basically the front of the body, the stomach and the spleen associated with earth element, which is so it's about the back of the body and the front of the body, and then maybe also anger, which would be more associated with the tree element and the liver and gallbladder meridians.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
so
you
by stimulating the meridian system, you can do sort of quite an easy and non-traumatic way. You can release trauma that's held because it doesn't have to be. I think sometimes so we hold on to trauma, and sometimes we do so for good reason because we don't want to let it out. We need to be able to function. And so it's a gentle way of releasing. And it's the same with somatics. It's the same. It's like it's in the body. You just, you can experience it and release it without it being a huge thing that, because sometimes when you talk about it, like in a talking therapy, it can set you off, can't it?
yeah.
And I think if it's in the body, it's more, because it's less associated in a way. All you're doing is making a contraction and releasing or just experiencing movement.
You're not making meaning of anything. Yeah.
No, and just by doing a movement, say like that in Qigong, that is the expression of joy, isn't it? So you can do the movement and then maybe it can change the emotions you're feeling just by expressing it in the body.
But
Yeah.
it could be really simple things like I know when we first practiced, like even just standing was difficult for me. Just stand. It's like I didn't know whether I stood forward, backwards, and you got us to sort of do it. Also, this sort of sense of expansion is quite hard to open your arms. You really have to trust something somewhere to open your arms and to take up space. It's very subtle, all the different, and then changing directions. Then your direction sometimes is, what else could be possible? What else, see what your body needs. What else is possible? Those are all very, very subtle cues to your body to just try something new. Just,
Mm.
instead of being in a held pattern, you're just asking the body, well, what would happen if we did this?
Mm.
What would happen if you navigated the world like this? And so it's kind of changing the patterns of held emotions as well. It's very, very subtle. I could talk forever about your
Yeah.
teaching, but
Well,
do you want to do a little practice,
yeah.
or we
Okay.
talk
Let's
about
do something. So
yeah.
it can be sitting, or because one thing about it is that if you don't feel up to it, you don't have to do it. So you can still stay with it sort of mindfully, whatever I say, and imagine that you're doing it, or sort of activate the nerves that would make that movement happen, but without actually moving it. And it's the same pathway, so you can still benefit.
Okay. So let's
Okay, so let's do something. So you can be sitting or standing. I think I'm going to stand because it's nice I like to have my feet on the floor, but you can have your feet on the floor sitting. And anyone who wants to join in, no, you're not going to be on camera. So I'll just do it and you can follow along or just, just enjoy. So, okay. Well, I keep thinking I'm going to press record and then anyway. So a little qigong. Just feel your connection with the floor, your feet on the floor, and if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes for a short time. And just so it's harder to balance with your eyes closed, so you might find it increases the amount that you move to begin with, and then after a while you probably settle. And you can tune in. There's a kind of a natural forward and back sway that human beings have, and you don't have to force it. But once you know about it, you'll experience it, and it's just very subtle, and you can sort of relax into it. So you're never still. That's the quality of chi. It's life force. So something that's alive always has movement. Okay, so then you can open your eyes if you want, and we're just going to do a movement we do every time, nearly, which is just to sort of drop down and bend your knees a very slight bit so that you relax your hips and relax your back. And then as you straighten them, you raise the arms to the sides with your palms up. Then when you get sort of comfortably above your head, then you start to bend your knees again and lower your arms down through the center line. And then you just follow that rhythm. And you can always adapt everything with Qigong. So if, for example, your shoulders feel like they're clunking or complaining a bit when you raise your arms, you can just do a small version. So I'll just show you a small version here. Really, you're just bending the elbows more. And it's the same circular pattern. And the effect is the same. So you can adapt it for yourself. If you like, you can look up whilst your arms come above your head if they're coming above your head. And it's especially nice to do outside because it's called embrace the sky. So what you're doing is inviting the chi, the energy from the sky to come down into your body and fill you up with sparkling, clear, bright energy. Let's change the movement, but we'll continue the same pattern in the legs where you rise and sink a little bit. So the change of movement is now the arms come up in front of you with the palms down. You open out towards the side, palms face each other, come back in towards each other, and then lower the hands, palm down. So that's the movement. And all the time you move as if you're moving through water, so there's a resistance. You don't use effort, but you have to use some kind of intention so that as your arms move away from each other, you can feel the impact of the air against your skin, or as they come towards each other, you can feel it on the inside of you. And so you always have this feeling of there's a slight resistance, which makes you sort of come into your body, come into the present moment of experiencing your body, gentle, soft movements. And the whole 5 element thing sort of makes sense in an exercise like this. So you can imagine that the winter time, the water element is here at the lowest point, and then rising up. This is springtime, opening out full blown summertime, and then condensing back into autumn. And late autumn, which would be metal elements, and winter, water, tree rising, fire expanding, earth sinking, metal condensing. And then let's just do one more, and then we'll sometimes this move is called embrace tiger, return to mountain. So here you can imagine holding a ball. So some Qigong practice is just standing or being very still. And to begin with, that's quite tiring. It can be quite tiring. So if it's tiring, you can just lower your hands and as if you're supporting a ball. You can feel the presence of this ball. Or if you're comfortable and raise the arms, it's more sort of strengthening the arms raised. But it takes a while to build the stamina, so you can be patient. Then if you're comfortable, close your eyes. And then just check your posture. Your feet are relaxed and planted, and your legs are strong, and your feet connect to your pelvis. The pelvis is weight bearing as well as your feet. Then you kind of drop your tailbone as if you're about to sit down. Then it opens your back. You have a little bit more space in the center of your back. And then draw yourself up from a cord at the top of your head, which just lines up your vertebrae nice and neat, like beads on a string. Space, space, spine. And then relax down through your face, relax down through your chest and your belly, to the place we call your dantian, which is the center of your belly. You can imagine a ball of light, source, light energy in your belly, like a pilot light, keeping you alive. You may also be able to feel your fingers starting to buzz, tingle with energy, feel them expanding. And space between your fingers as well. And everywhere is soft, effortless. And now slowly close your hands in towards your belly or your dantian. Cover your dantian as if receiving more energy to keep that pilot light burning. And really lower your arms, relax. We'll continue our conversation, shall we now? Or, yeah, probably. No.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much. I know I was just going to reflect that when we first started, every time you said, now put your hands on your dantian, I couldn't feel anything. Do you remember?
Mm,
No connection to that part of my body at all.
yeah. And now?
I can 5 years later. I, it didn't take 5 years, it took far less, but I do
Mm,
remember the first few sessions, I kind of, maybe the first few months even, I
yeah.
had no connection to that part of my body at all. I had no sort of conscious connection to that part of my body.
Mm,
So it's all is this is why I was saying Qigong and also your direction because you're trauma informed, is it's the subtle things that happen. It's all in the subtle. It's not big kapow moments. It's the drip, 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 subtle, 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 and then
mm,
suddenly you're a different person. Suddenly
mm,
responses to life are different. I remember in one of your sessions we were doing the archer. I've told you this before, and you just said look in the direction of your arrow. You know what are you putting your focus on? And I made a really massive life-changing decision right in that moment, which I hadn't had the courage to before. But it was literally in the posture I made a really big decision. So it's just support. Qigong is supportive in all kinds of ways that you can't actually verbalize.
yeah. It's like a metaphor in many ways. It's like
Yeah,
a metaphor, and you can choose, you can really choose
yeah,
how you interpret a move. It can be, am I keeping the space around me, keeping my space safe, or am I warding off against danger, or am I making a decision? Or, so I really like that about it.
yeah, beautiful. So let's move on to talking about somatics because I know that's another thing that you're passionate about. And in we sometimes sort of juxtapose or mix in somatics. After 6 sessions, we do maybe one of somatics. But you wrote me a little piece about somatics, and just before we came on to record, when I read it, I was like, "Oh, you need to give me books about it," because I had no idea that's what's behind it because we've never really talked about it. We've just done it.
Mhm.
But you use the word sensory motor amnesia, and so tell me more about that because it's fascinating. And then so we
Okay.
talk a bit, and then we're going to do a somatics practice as well. Yeah.
Okay. So, sensory motor amnesia is a term that Thomas Hanna, who's the kind of inventor of somatics, Thomas Hanna without an H at the end, Hanna, and he coined the term. And it just means places or parts of your body that your nervous system has forgotten that where the tension is held. So it's like unconscious tension held in the body. Because it's sensory motor because it's the muscles that hold the tension, but it's the nervous system that holds the muscles. So unless you can release the nervous system, you can't release the muscles. So this is why we address the nervous system, but through the muscles because that's how you move, kind of thing. And so hidden tension. So it's difficult to find because it's hidden. That's the thing about it. And so, and it's not necessarily where you think the problem is. So, say, for example, you have a wrist injury or something like that. The trauma associated with it is in the center of the body, but the pain is in the wrist. So, it's not necessarily, it is a trauma to your wrist, yes, but it's held in the center of the body. So we always release from the center. Everything connects to the center, and it's so obvious. And that's how it's like qigong because it's about the center. Um,
Do you mean
and
because of the nervous system? Is that what you mean?
Yes, it's the central nervous system. So
Yeah.
it's the spine and it's the way it radiates out, but also the center, as in your dantian, like
Right.
as in core, whatever people call it. Um, and so how do you deal with it if you can't see it and can't find it? So what we do is a most simple technique, and once you know about it, you'll be like, oh, so obvious. How didn't I know that? But anyway, it's called pandiculation, which means to yawn in Latin. Pandiculare means to yawn. And a yawn is not a stretch. So a yawn is actually the opposite of a stretch. So a stretch is a pull, and a pull doesn't do you any good. It doesn't lengthen your muscles. It doesn't release anything. But a pandiculation is a contraction followed by a slow release. That's what a yawn is. If you think about it, when you yawn, you go, oh, and that's the contraction, and that's the release. So a yawn is a natural way. It's a natural movement of releasing tension. And a sigh is also, so if you find yourself sighing, it's like, yeah, I'm resetting. That's okay. I'm not bored. And so that's what we do. So instead of, so it works on so many levels. It works on physical levels. If you've got, tight muscles, it works to release them and lengthen. And on an emotional level, it works to release who knows what stuff that's held everywhere, where. And so what you do is you tighten more than you're already tight. So for example, if you have, after a while you get to know your pattern. So mine particularly is this shoulder, opposite hip and foot. But anyway, that's just mine. People can find that you can find your own. And so if you have tension in this shoulder, which I used to have or do still have, and so what you do is instead of going, oh, I've got this shoulders keep, pushing it down and like doesn't work. We all know that. So instead of doing that, you tighten it more. So you do, oh, what am I already doing? What does my brain want to do? How is my body holding me? What does it want to do? What does my unconscious want me to do? It wants me to do that. Okay, so I'll do that. And then I can feel it. So as soon as I do that, oh, I can feel it now. And once you can feel it, you can release it. And then you release it slowly. So you go really slow. And the slowness gives your brain time to reset
Mm.
the nervous system. So then the muscle gets longer and the tension is gone because tension is contraction, isn't it? So yeah, that's the beauty of it. And SMA, sensory motor amnesia, shows up in many different ways. And one of them is in a kind of a jerky movement. So you might, when we do it later, you might experience it. So if I'm going like this, and on the way down, it kind of goes jerk, jerk, jump, jump, jump. That's sensory motor amnesia because it's saying yes, no, I don't dare. Oh, yes, I will. No, no, I don't. It's not used to releasing, so it's hesitant, and that's what makes the jumpiness. But it also shows up in other ways, like recruiting certain muscles always for something. Like if you're, reaching for something else will also contract that doesn't need to, and it's habitual. It's that kind of thing. And so spotting it's great. It's like a revelation. It's like, oh, now I know what I've been doing. And once you can see what you're doing, you can exaggerate it, contract more into it, and then slowly release it. And then there it goes. Bye bye.
I know in Qigong sometimes myself and someone else who's online, I know we generally we try too hard. We make too much effort, if you know what I mean. And then it's like your knee hurts or you've just over or tightened something when you're stretching something else. And you always say, don't try too hard, or if it's
Mm,
on it between 0 and 10, go to a 7 or
exactly.
but that's learned behavior of like it's a learned pattern in your body. So
Yeah. Sensory motor amnesia, actually, it's that, isn't
yeah,
it? It's the same thing.
because you don't even know
Habitual.
you're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me that what I was really interested in when I read what you'd sent me was the red light reflex, green. I can't even say it.
Yeah.
Green light
Okay.
reflex.
Green light reflex.
And
Okay, so Thomas Hanna, again, this originator. So his teachers, by the way, were Alexander from Alexander Technique and Feldenkrais, who
oh,
does a lot of
really?
very small, very subtle movements and connected with the emotions. But and I'm not sure where the red, green, and trauma reflexes came from. It might have been Thomas Hanna, but it might have been one of his predecessors. Anyway, so stress reflexes come in patterns, which is useful. So you have stress reflexes which originate in the base of your brain, so you don't have control over them. They're autonomic, they're automatic stress reflexes. And one of them, Thomas Hanna named the red light reflex, but it's also otherwise called the startle reflex. And it has a set pattern in the body, and it's all the same. We're all the same. All humans are the same, but also in terms of this response, would be the same, and so would mice, and so would flowers, even. Everyone has a freeze response, it would be. So we're familiar with it. And it has a set pattern in the body, which we'll find when we do our little thing. But basically, it's a self-protective, it's a survival reflex. So it's very strong, very powerful, and very quick. It's the first one. Before you do anything, you do that, and then you go, oh no, it's okay. So that's the thing often with trauma that's continued triggered. You're constantly feeling like this. So that's how it can help. Go into it, feel it. Okay, Thomas Hanna has the expression in some of his audios of look the devil in the eye. That's what he says. Don't be afraid to go there. You're not going to get stuck there because you're going there to come out. You know, so that's also like a metaphor, isn't it?
Mm.
And then so that's the red light reflex. It's freeze response, self-protective, a stop red light. And then green light energy is the exact opposite. And it's more like what they call the sympathetic chain response. So it's like adrenaline surge. It affects the back of the body. And it's basically a sort of an overexertion, over efforting, overstressed, call to action alert, so you're kind of, you can't rest, you can't sit down, people have this kind of thing, like almost like too much energy, but also knackered as well you can be because it's so tiring. And it has the complete opposite. It affects the back of the body, so the whole of the back. And so we can show you, we can do the posture ourselves later, whole of the back of the body. And make yourself bigger, either to run or to fight. So that's your fight or flight response. So there's your red and your green. And then the trauma reflex. So they're all trauma reflexes, really. But the trauma reflex is more about imbalance in the side to side of the body. So that can be a sort of a tilt to one side or a rotation like that, and commonly both. So like a bit of that plus a little bit of red light. So you've got to, once you get into it, then you can start to find your own pattern. So, well, I've got a bit of green light there, but this is red light, and then I've got trauma. So why are you the shape you are? And but the beauty of it is that you don't have to go into, oh, that must be because of the trauma, and I was going like this or something. You don't need to relive it because you can just put your body in different positions and experience it. And then, is it familiar? Is it unfamiliar? What does it feel like the other side? It's like you're exploring it. And by exploring it, just sort of not in a kind of heavy way at all. You're just like, well, what happens if this curls under? How does that feel? How does it connect to the center? Then yeah, you can undo an awful lot, and then you'll see it in the body, because people who are depressed or anxious do tend to hold themselves like this. That's very red light. Or people who are anxious in another way, fearful but having to appear to be brave, will hold that posture, or sort of kind of a cowering kind of feeling. So yeah, the main, I think, thrust of it is you go into it in order to go out of it, and you tighten in order to release. Simple.
So we'll do a practice in a second, but I just wanted to reflect this. If for anyone who's interested in pursuing somatics, you work online as well, do you?
I
Um,
do, yeah. I do a Monday morning class, 11:15.
yeah. So you work online, but also they can go and read about it and find other resources. Um, and ordinarily, with let's say in a therapy context or psychotherapy context, you'd never say to somebody, go into it on your own and really feel the feeling. You just wouldn't, because you'd want them to be supported. But when you're working with the body, the wisdom of the body, it will just bring you what you need. One time I know when we've practiced, sometimes it's like your left hip, the next time is your, and you always say, for example, your direction is, um, you don't say go into your right shoulder, go into your left shoulder. You say just notice which one is holding more tension. And each time something else pops up in that moment. Sometimes something is possible, and another time something else is possible. A bit like in when you practice yoga, and it's to approach it with that sense of curiosity and playfulness and that light touch, not so much the intensity. I think I found that, because I approach everything, I'm like either naught or 100%. That used to be my character. It's not anymore, I have to say. But I used to be very black and white, all or nothing. Now I've found the middle path. I'd like to credit Qigong to that. But that is a trauma response as well, to be very rigid and black and white. So, but to find that fluidity and that playfulness, and so when we practice now, I'd encourage, just that sense of curiosity and playfulness, and not we're feeling the feelings, but we're not feeling the emotions. We're feeling the feeling in the body. So that's where the safety is, I think.
Yeah,
We're not going into memory, or yeah, we're just being
but
curious. It's like, oh, you know,
yeah, and also you never push past anything. So
exactly.
if something feels tight or wrong or doesn't feel right, then that's the sign you listen for. So you go, okay, well then we won't do it, or we'll just do a tiny version, we'll do a small version. Everything is has to be comfortable. And you just want to feel better, really, don't you? So it helps your body to feel better.
Yeah,
And then it has an emotional
yeah.
effect as
And it's the subtle changes. Yeah.
yeah,
Would you like
yeah.
to lead us into a somatics practice? And
Okay, okay.
okay,
Yeah,
so
let's do
we
that.
may not have time to talk about the vagus nerve as we were planning.
Oh, we'll do another one. We'll do it. So
On
Stanley Rosenberg has gone
so,
walkabout today.
yeah,
Yeah.
go.
Okay. So let's do we'll uh do sitting one to begin and see how we go. So this is just a way to release tension in your shoulders. So for this one, when we talk about the center, we're talking about the center line that runs all the way down, splits your body. And so you can just sit comfortably and close your eyes if you like. And just have a little small scan through. And what you're looking for is anywhere that springs to mind, anywhere that's going me, and just noticing, not doing anything about it, but just noticing if there's any tension or any discomfort anywhere you can feel. And just acknowledging it without trying to change it. And then narrow down your exploration to your shoulders. So we're just going to do a nice shoulder release and decide which shoulder is feeling more needy or more tense or more the one you want to start with. And then just shrug that shoulder up towards your ear slowly. So let your arm be heavy and move your shoulder up towards your ear along the side seam. And just go slowly. And don't push past anything that's not comfortable, but don't be afraid to go to your full limit, because if your full limit is feeling comfortable, then you can go really quite a long way. And if it doesn't feel comfortable, then that's a sign to stop. And just pause up there a moment. So make sure it's comfortable. Don't strain, especially in your neck. Keep your neck soft. Notice that you've lengthened underneath your armpit to allow that to happen. Feel that space under there suddenly opened up. And now you've got this contraction here at the top of your shoulder. So feel that. And then release it as if it's coming out from your spine, like a fountain arcing away, and slowly lower your shoulder down and just witness this journey. So it can feel like a very long way. In fact, let's stop part way down, just stop there. Because sometimes you kind of lose the feeling of it. So if you lose the feeling on the way down, you just stop and then come back up, but not all the way. Just a small way back up. So you're tensing just a small bit, and now you can feel it again. So once you can feel it, you can release it. Release from the center line and allow your shoulder to keep traveling on its journey towards when it's completely sort of hanging down. But just pause one more time. It's right at the beginning and right at the end of the move sometimes where you get the biggest change. So let's just pause before you get all the way down there and come back again one more time, just a small way, just enough so you can feel it like a little tightening and then a slow release again from the center, and then just witness it going all the way down to its end point. It might take a while. So a pandiculation, which is what we're doing, is a tightening followed by a slow release, followed by a rest. So when it gets down there, don't forget to rest, because sometimes extraordinary things can happen when you're resting. Okay, and then let's stick to the same shoulder and slowly draw the shoulder up again towards your ear. So it's like it's going up in a lift. Carry it up there and just notice what the range is like this time. Don't push past anything. Feel the length underneath your armpit. And then when you're ready, like a yawn. Oh, releasing slowly. This time go all the way down. See how smooth you can make it. And let it come to rest. And have a little pause. So that's one shoulder pandiculation. And what I'd like to do instead of doing the other one is go into these reflex patterns, because it would be nice to do that. And I know we're going to run out of time. So you can always do the same with the other shoulder, or probably you just pick the one that needed anyway. Don't always have to be completely balanced. So let's find this red light pattern. So I'm going to do it standing, but you can do it sitting, or you can do it lying down. You can do it however you want. And basically, it's a closing of the front of the body. So if you put one hand on your chest and the other one on the lower belly, and you just draw them towards each other, you feel instantly that you're curling forward, you're bending forward. And you just allow that to happen. And feel what you've done is you've restricted the space by your ribs here. So automatically it becomes a little bit harder to breathe. So just go with that for the minute, but you can notice that it's harder to breathe when you're constricted in this way. And then the other elements of it are the shoulders, which will come up, shrugging up like we did before, and then roll a little bit forward. So there's a tightening at the front of the shoulders as well as at the top of the shoulders. And then also this kind of sinking feeling in your chest, which is indeed a sinking feeling. It's not a lovely place to be. It's a sinking feeling. And then the other bit you can't quite see is on the legs part of it, which is where your hips draw in towards each other, your knees come together, your feet roll in towards the inside edges, and your weight will come back. So here's your classic red light posture. And usually, because you've got to function as a human being, the last bit that will happen is your chin will pop up, because you've got to see where you're going. So there's your startle reflex. There's your red light reflex. You've noticed the contraction also in the back of the neck. Okay, so we're going to release that. It's not a lovely place to be, but just be there and then release it from the center, which is your belly, and feel it opening everything slowly, all directions. So down to your legs, up to your body, out to your arms and shoulders up into your neck and head, and just feel the relief and the kind of spaciousness of coming out of that. So we stayed there quite a long time because I was talking so much, but you can just do that smaller. So let's just do a smaller version of that. So just do it a little bit. So that's how it manifests in most people, a small version. If you spend a lot of time on a phone like this, or tapping away or driving, anything that brings you into this posture is going to induce that same thing, which is basically a fear. It's a fear response, it's an anxiety feeling, and it's a lack of breath. So there you go into it, and now you can come out of it. The relief is just, there's your red light posture. And then the green light one is the back of the body. So it's an arched back. It's basically this. The shoulders go, the back arches forward, belly comes forward, shoulders go back and down, and your chin drops down. And then also your weight tends to come forward into your feet. Feet will quite often be splayed. And if you try walking about like that, it makes you feel, it's quite funny. But if you just lessen the posture a bit, it is that kind of, yeah, do you want to fight? That kind of, make yourself bigger, make yourself, um, something to be reckoned with. And it's a contraction of the back of the body, and you can get stuck there by not stuck there, but doing it a lot will just exacerbate it, and that's what will give you backache. So to release it, we go into it, exaggerate it a little bit, and then slowly come out of it and feel the relief in that hand tension, the back of the body. So by doing those two, you've released the back of the body and the front of the body. And what you're after is a balance, a perfect balance between them. There's also the sides of the body. Should we do that as well? Yeah. So just pause a minute and feel your own sides of your body. So what I'm talking about is the sides of the ribs, the sides of your waist, and the sides of your pelvis. And this is where there's quite often differences. And so just go inside and have a feel or have a think. Which side of your waist is tighter? Is it obvious or is it not obvious? And which side is shorter? Can you tell? And if you can't tell, then don't worry, just choose a side. But if you have a distinct feeling that one side is tighter or shorter than the other side, then do what we did before, which is exaggerate it, do more of what you're already doing. So just close and tilt towards the side that's shorter and make it even shorter. And there you are, you've got that kind of if you dig in deep, you can feel there's a kind of a hard, those muscles are contracted in there. And the other side has gone much longer. Notice that. And then here you go, slowly release your waist, come back up to center. And then you can, so if you notice, because there's some people it's very obvious and they have a distinct tilt, which just happens over time of doing something habitually. Other people it's much more subtle. But if you notice it in yourself, then the way to correct it is to do what you do. So do more of what you're already doing. Do it one more time. Feel it's a contraction. That's what I'm doing. And then slowly come out of it. Okay, then you can lengthen the muscle. And then what you do is you do it on the other side to balance it. So now try the other side and see, how does that feel? So if it feels really different or really unfamiliar, then you probably do have a habitual, movement that you're doing that's making it shorter one side. So it's just interesting to feel that. So feel it on this side and then slowly come out. And so if you do that over time, balance one side, balance the other side, then you'll end up much more even. And then the third way, I don't know if we have time, is a rotation. We'll just do one quick thing. So if you place one hand on a shoulder, just choose whichever one appeals to you. And then we're going to rotate, which means hips stay forward on this line and shoulders rotate. So that's just quite a complicated move. Just turn your head with it. Notice how far you can get to. That's one side. And then slowly come back again. There you are. Okay, so we're just going to release the waist from this movement. So just go again and do the same thing and turn as far around as you can see behind you, but not strain, just comfortable. And then keep your shoulders there, but turn your head back towards the screen, or turn your head to go over the other shoulder, to look over the other shoulder. There you go. Let's get to there. No straining, just as far as it will go. Don't push. And then take it back. Take your head back again to where it was before, when you was over the shoulder. And slowly come back to center the whole body, all of the rotation. But keep your hand shoulder. Okay, and then one last time. Go again, one more time. Rotate round. Look as far as you can go. And you probably find you can see a bit further. You can get more easily round. Just differentiating the neck. Okay, and then come back. And I know it's time to finish, so is that what you're saying? Yeah. Oh dear, it's not enough time, is there?
We could actually do a whole maybe we'll do a whole somatics session one day,
Yeah.
with discussion about it. So before we finish, is there anything you want to add, subtract?
Um, well, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking three main things Qigong and somatics all do. One is calm the nervous system. So anything, that's our objective, really. Calm the nervous system and you'll get rid of your tension. And then second one is brings you into the present moment, the experience of being in the body. And then the third one is more about coordination, mind and body, or giving you confidence in, which enhances your life.
Definitely. We're going to have to talk again, Kath.
Yeah, let's do
We haven't
it.
had enough time. The hour turned
Going
in.
on and on and on.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
so I'm going to switch off the recording and we can have a chat with the people who are here. Thank you so much, Kath.
My pleasure.